Hey there, MCU fans, this is Wesatron. Today we're going to be taking a look at Bandai's SH Figuarts Captain America Civil War Ant-Man action figure. This was released just about a month or two ago and had kind of a small run. I didn't see a lot of fanfare about this figure, but I was very excited about it because I really like the Scott Lang character in the MCU. I think Paul Rudd did a great job with it, and I really enjoyed the first movie and his appearance in Civil War. So yeah, I was very excited for this figure. It's his new duds. As you can see, it's much more slick and streamlined than his original costume that they debuted in the Ant-Man movie. So I am excited to see this figure. The only other representation we've got of this in the roughly 6-inch scale was the Build-A-Figure that came in the Captain America wave of Marvel Legends. So I will bring that in here and we can compare them a little bit. But yeah, this is a very exciting little figure. Standard window box for SH Figuarts. You can see a little bit of the figure, but a lot of it is obscured by the cool art down here, which features Captain America and Iron Man. On the side, we've got a shot of the figure. On the back, some of the poses that are achievable and some silly little things. Option parts, molding, movable. He's an action figure, of course he's movable. Lots of Japanese text on the bottom here. On the side, there's no other art or anything. It's just, you know, some design work. And top is pretty basic. Bottom just says Ant-Man, Team Captain America. It's interesting that that's the only... Oh, no, here it is. It says it here on the side, too. So, yeah, pretty nice little box. It seems like for their licensed things, they're going much smaller with their boxes than they used to. Figuarts used to have big, huge boxes, but he also may be very limited in accessories, so why don't we go ahead and get him out of the box and we can check it for ourselves. Here we have Scott Lang, or Ant-Man, out of packaging. This is a very cool figure. I'm always impressed with the SH Figuarts line, but this one in particular I just really like. As I said, because I really like the Scott Lang character. Included in the package, we do have a little set of instructions, and it doesn't say a whole lot that I can actually read. I mean, it does have this caution information in English, but not much of it is in English. But you can see how the hands are switched off, which is basically they're set on a ball joint. You just pop them off, pop on the new ones. And in the back, it was hard to see in the packaging, but there's actually an insert of an outline of Scott's head on kind of a metallic-looking background, which is really kind of like a brushed metal look, which is very cool. It's very slick, and you can't really see it, so I just wanted to show that for a second. The accessories you got, as I said, probably very limited in accessories, and I was right. We have an extremely minuscule, tiny little Scott Lang figure right here, and he's so small. I'm gonna try and measure him, and he is just over a half an inch, maybe 7/10 of an inch. Just tiny little figure. So expect this to be lost. That's got to be the smallest one I've seen yet. It's even smaller than the SDCC Lang that came in the Matchbox. So that's itty bitty. And then the only other thing he's got are these splayed open hands, which are very nicely detailed, and they do look like gloved hands. They're not absurdly skinny or absurdly puffy. They just look just about right. So very cool. And as I said, those pop on and off via ball joint very easily. So yeah, the figure himself is very cool. They've kind of revamped how they do Figuarts in the last maybe year or 2 years. I think the Kamen Rider, what was it? Kamen Rider Gaim series is where they really started to experiment with some new looks. But they've gotten it to where it's a very realistic looking body now, and the articulation is really smooth and feels really good in hand. So in terms of the costume, we've got not a perfectly silver mask, kind of almost like a very faint bronzish color over it, to where it's not pure silver that you're looking at. That may be accurate to the movie. I haven't seen it close up on Blu-ray or anything, so I can't say for sure, but it's definitely not a pure silver on all these metal parts. But it still looks really good. That may be that it's designed that way in the film because he's also not, he seemed kind of more black or gray in the movie, but this is actually a very deep chocolatey brown. There's some gray qualities up here on the shoulders and on the chest, and certain details down here in the legs and things, but the main color is actually a very dark brown, even if it comes off as black under these, you know, big lights and everything. But yeah, very, very, very detailed. They did such a good job capturing all the detail you can see in the mask. He's got all his little details up here in like the ear section. I guess these are the antenna to speak with the ants. We've got the little connection piece like you saw in the original movie. All the hoses that are designed, I guess, to move the PEM particles throughout the suit. Very, very cool. The belt is very basic, but it's very, you know, slick looking. They did a good job with that. Everything is very well detailed. We've got a nice little pattern on here, some texture that fits in very well with the MCU. And the feet all look really, really nice. He's got kind of like stirrup boots down here. And then the bottom of the feet are treaded, but there are no peg holes. I don't think they usually include peg holes with SH Figuarts, so yeah, overall, very, very nice sculpt, very good looking. They did an awesome job on this figure. But SH Figuarts, while known for some good sculpting, are especially known for how they move. So this might take a little bit, but let's go through his articulation. In the head, we've got a double ball joint up here in the helmet. They've gone away from the swivel joint for this figure. That may be the case with all new figures, but I haven't got a ton of them lately. But there's a ball joint here and a ball joint at the base of the neck. Then down here at the base of the throat, I guess, the lower neck, there's another ball joint. So altogether, you get just a ton of range of motion. You can look about that far up. You can look about that far down. You get, you know, side-to-side bend. Of course, you get your full 360 twist and everything. And then you get your chicken head motion if that's something you're into. I know some people like that thing. I don't know why. We've got hinges up here on the shoulders to move these little pieces out of the way, which I didn't really think of as pauldrons in the movie, but it's nice that they do kind of get up and out of your way. We've got ball joints that connect the upper shoulder piece to the chest. So you got a little bit of motion there. It's mostly for rotation, but you do get some motion so you can move the, you can see the arm piece moving up and down. This has already popped off twice, so that's just going to be part of having that on a hinge. If they had put a metal pin through it, it might have held it in better, but it also runs the risk of breakage, so you got to be careful with that. But yeah, so we've got a ball joint that connects the shoulder to the body, and then we've also got an interior joint in the chest here that's on a swivel that's a lateral joint. So you can see his arm, if you can see this, it moves his arm aside from the ball joint in and out, which hopefully, there we go, we can see it a little better there. See how this piece is moving? Yeah, that whole section moves forward, so you can move his arms, you know, forward so he can cross his arms, or he can kind of put his hands together, things like that, and then the whole piece can be moved back. So that's in addition to the ball joint, which is pretty cool. And then the actual joint itself is on a hinge, so this whole piece, it's balled in here, but there's a hinge out here, so it, you know, moves like that, and then it's got a full swivel all the way around, so that's not impeded in any way. That thing's just going to pop off. We've got swivels in the above the biceps muscles, and then we've got a double hinge in the elbow. The first point only gets you about that far. The second point is very well jointed and gets you all the way up to there. This one definitely could move better. I don't know why it's impeded. See, you've got about that much range of motion, but it seems like there's room to move a lot further, so I'm not sure what's holding that up. It must be the sculpt inside. But it would be nice if it moved a little bit more, but it's certainly not bad. We've got a swivel hinge swivel in the wrist, which basically means that you can move this wrist however you want. As I said, these pop off very easily. You can see there's a little ball joint under there, but it doesn't have ball range motion on it. Like, you don't have additional movement because of that. So yeah, you can twist the wrist all the way around in the upper joint, and then there's a hinge, and then the lower joint can twist as well. So you can pretty much put this in any kind of pose you want. It's very, very flexible. In the midsection, as you can see, we've got a very nice ball joint that moves that far forward, that far back, and then another ball joint in the waist, so that combined they move very, very well. it's very nice what you can do with all this. You get a very nice range of motion. Not as much rock in the top, because you can see there's more of a slot cut out for that. If you can see up in there, there's a bit more of a slot notched out. So, but you do have a very nice range of motion all the way around. We've got a hinge in the pelvis area so that the legs can pop down. The reason they do that is because they don't want to cut up really high here. So popping the leg down allows it to get more forward motion, which is pretty cool. And that pops back up whenever you want to create more of a vanilla pose. And that in itself is a swivel hinge joint, so you know you can move forward, out to the side, and everything. At first, I thought that this was just a swivel joint because this one is very tight on this leg, but this is actually a double ball joint. So watch on this leg. As I pull down, I can actually push the leg out away from the body. So this is actually on its own ball joint, and you get a lot of motion out of that. You know, just to kind of move it a little bit here or there to help balance or help get extreme poses and things like that, which is a pretty neat little addition, and something I think that's pretty uniquely Figuarts for the time being. There may be other companies doing it, but that's the only one I know that's doing anything quite like that. We've got double hinge knee. First point gets you close to 90 degrees, about 90 degrees. And then the second point puts it all the way back there. We've got no swivels throughout the leg, but there is a swivel hidden up here above the foot, the ankle joint. So you can move the foot left and right, which is very nice. You've got downward motion about that far, forward motion about that far, both very nice. And then you've got a hinge or a rocker swivel down here, so you can get very deep poses. Like that would be how extreme the leg could go if you needed it to. So very, very cool. And then you've got the hinge toes, which I'm usually not a huge fan of, so I don't really count them as being, you know, a bonus or a negative. I just always worry about it affecting balance on the figure at the end. So yeah, I'm going to pop his little shoulder pad back on. This is the only one that's popped off so far, but it's continuously popping off. I may have to look inside and see if there's some a little too much paint or something. It doesn't seem like it's clipping on very well. And I don't think that that's a widespread issue. I think that's just mine. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and get a couple more Scott figures in here, and we can compare them to the Hasbro and DST offerings. So here we have Scott again with, this is the DST Ant-Man from the first Ant-Man movie and the Hasbro Build-A-Figure Ant-Man from Civil War. So this is really just so you can see the difference in the costumes. This one has a much blacker look to it, as opposed to like the dark brown that we talked about for this one, and a much purer silver. And I actually am a bigger fan of this costume just because it looks a little more put together, like kind of slapdash, like not as refined as this. This is probably, I guess, helped out somewhere along the way by Pym. He like redeveloped it or anything or something, but this I think was just a little more fun. This is a little more sleek. So, but you can see that there are some differences here, which could have occurred between the growth from this size to this size, or it could have to do with the fact that they were just sculpted at different points in the development of the new suit. So you can see some slight changes here and there. This one is a much more black looking plastic than his dark brown. I'm not really, as I said, sure which one would be more accurate at this point, but both of them look very good. One thing that's interesting to note is he's got little red dots up here on his shoulder pieces where his are blue. So I wonder if that's something that I'll have to keep an eye out for when I get the movie on Blu-ray, just to see if that changes because of him using that type of the growth instead of the shrinking. So pretty cool. But as you can see, there are some differences, and his looks much more like a guy in a suit, and his is a little tighter and things. It makes him look a little more superheroic, which fits in with the Hasbro aesthetic just fine. And while I don't have any other Figuarts versions of the characters from the MCU, I do have some Marvel Legends, and you can see he lines up pretty well compared to Captain America. I don't think Scott is supposed to be as tall as Chris Evans or Steve Rogers, so I think he fits in pretty well. Bucky, as we said in his review, is pretty tall. The figure is just, he's been elongated a little bit since his first appearance. So, yeah, I think he fits in pretty well with the MCU. I think, especially when posing the figure, you wouldn't notice too much of a difference if he does seem a little short. But yeah, this figure is kind of expensive. I paid somewhere in the range of about maybe $60 to $65 for him from Amiami. And if you buy him US, he's going to be closer, I think, to like 80 or 85, which is very expensive, and honestly too expensive for what you get, just because he is very bare bones. 60 to 65 I can kind of see, because the figure is probably in the range of a, you know, $45 to $50 figure, just based on what he is, how well articulated, the engineering, everything. They're not going to be able to reuse the parts or anything like that. So I could see, you know, being 45 to maybe 55, and then it seems like Figuarts is just paying out the booty for licenses, because their Star Wars and MCU figures are all very expensive. So I assume the license must be very expensive. Otherwise, they don't really have a reason to be so crazily expensive. But yeah, very bare bones. So if you can get this guy in the range of, you know, 50 to 60, $65, that's not too bad at all for what you get, because he is a really, really great action figure. But just remember that he does come with very few accessories. So as an action figure, you know, just based on like plastic and things like that, he's not the best investment. So yeah, just don't pay too much for him. These things get a little crazy. Keep an eye on Amazon for a while, and hopefully he'll drop a bit. But yeah, that's it for this review. If you have any questions or comments about this figure, I'd be glad to listen to them. I'd be glad to answer anything that you have. But yeah, there's not too much more to say. He's a pretty awesome action figure. Pick him up if you can, and if he's too expensive, skip him. You'll be able to get one when the Ant-Man and Wasp movie comes out, and it'll probably be pretty similar to this costume, so not that big a deal. Like I said, I just really like the Scott Lang character from the movies. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.